last part of our club officer training, and it's about successful online meetings. As we know, we have to continue with online meetings, and therefore we should also think about how can we improve our online meetings. And what I've put together here is my own experiences as well as some resources from Toastmasters International, because there are also resources for online meetings on the Toastmasters International website. I have 2 other videos that I will share with you at the end of the presentation that you can also watch, for example, to improve your Zoom skills. This is my agenda. I split this in 5 parts. What should you know before for the preparation? What are your duties or responsibilities as the committee members? What should members know? And this part is also applicable to your normal online meetings in your job. This might be useful for you. What's important for the role takers in the meeting itself, because there are some changes where you have to switch, and what should you do after the meeting? So let's dig in. One thing is, online meetings are a great opportunity to develop your new skills, because we will continue with online meetings also in the professional life, and you have a great opportunity here in Toastmasters to practice this and improve it, because you get feedback. When you are in a normal meeting, you normally don't get feedback how you're looking into the camera or what's wrong with your background or with your light. But we can do this in Toastmasters, and this will also help you in your professional life. Online meetings have to be prepared carefully, and one point is to find a Zoom master who is taking care of the technique, if possible. You have seen that Rolf and I, we just switched the host of this meeting, because as the host you have more rights, but it would be also good to have a co-host during the meeting. For example, if someone forgets to switch off their microphone, the co-host can also mute people, which is important, because if there's a speaker speaking and something interferes, there should be someone who's muting people. One thing you should be aware of, technique can interfere and drop out at any time. It's not 100% perfect. You might experience that you drop out yourself, or that one of your member is dropping out. So be flexible and find workarounds if this happens. There is no reliability that it works 100%. If you're doing longer meetings, include breaks, because being online, that's what you experience probably on your own, needs more energy. You have to concentrate more, looking into the camera, listening to the people. So include breaks if you have a meeting longer than 1 hour. And get creative about energizers and also social connections. You have experienced one energizer. There is a lot of energizers for online meetings, and just try them out. They might be useful also for your business meetings. On the website of Toastmasters, you have some resources. If you follow this link, I can paste this later on in the chat, or you will also receive the presentation. So what should you know as the committee? One thing is about the enthusiasm that we also talked before. You should not say, I don't love these online meetings, because your members will feel the same. Tell them it's a great opportunity to develop new skills, because we will need this in the future anyway. And put the same efforts into an online meeting like in a normal meeting. Although you don't have to prepare the room, you have to take care of the techniques. You need the evaluation forms and other things. So put the same energy into it and start the meeting with a high energy. That's very important. People feel the energy, how you are talking, how you are presenting, and you as the committee members should be a role model for the others. Create a supporting environment for everyone, also those who are not that experienced. Sometimes it's good for members who are not used to the online meetings to tell them, dial in 10 minutes before so that we can check if everything is working. Because not everyone is experienced with Zoom or any other online tool. And treat it as a normal meeting. Although we thought it's an exception, it will become more normal. As we heard from Toastmasters International, our contests next year will be online too. So we will stick to this for a longer time than we expected. For the members, I have some tips and advice. Dial in early enough to check your equipment, especially if you are a speaker. If you dial in at the latest moment, there is no time to check if your audio is okay, because when you start your speech, everything should be tested before. So check your webcam, your microphone. If you have a headset, check this too. If everything works when you start your speech, because this makes you nervous too. If you checked it before, you are more confident. One point which is very important, eliminate noise. Try to find a quiet space. At home, silence your phone, inform your family members if you're in the meeting from home that you are now in an online meeting, so that there will be no interference. And mute your phone when you're not speaking, or mute your mic. That's what I wanted to put here. Mute your mic when you are not speaking so that there will be no additional noise. And try to make eye contact with the camera. And this is the small thing here on your computer. It's also good to lift up your computer a little bit so that you don't look down. And I have a second slide, what you can also do to improve your presence in front of the camera. I already said this, lift up your laptop. If you put a box under it so that it gets higher, then you communicate on the same level, on eye level with your audience. Also think about your background. Avoid too many distractions. It should be tidy background, because people start to look around while they are listening to you. What's there in your background? Is this, I say, if you're in the kitchen or somewhere, if you have a setting that's not that perfect, use the virtual backgrounds instead. This really helps, like Ralph is doing at the moment. And you can also add some Toastmasters branding if you use the Toastmasters backgrounds that you can download from the website. Because we don't have the banners here, but there you have at least the Toastmasters logo. What's very important is proper lighting, especially when you are a speaker. Avoid lighting from behind you, because then your face will be in the shade. And we want to see you when you are speaking. We want to see your mimic. And so have a light that's in front of you and switch off all the lights that are behind you. And also treat it as a normal meeting. Dress, behave, and speak similar like in a normal meeting. So prepare in the same way like you are preparing. Make your rehearsal. Maybe record yourself when you're doing it, your speech for the first time. This is also an opportunity for you to see yourself when you record yourself beforehand. So for the role takers, where are the differences during the meeting? There's a recommendation for the Toastmasters of the day. to join 15 minutes earlier to greet members when they are entering the room. And that's very important because everybody should feel comfortable with the online meeting. And he or she could also help with technical issues. If people can't hear, to tell them that they should log out again and dial in again to really make everything work before the meeting starts. It would be good to have an agenda on screen. What you can also do is, in EasySpeak, you have the agenda, the special view, and if you just take the link to the EasySpeak agenda, put it into the chat so that everyone can open it during the meeting and see the next speaker. Because we are distributing agendas in our normal meetings, we should find a way to do this also in online meetings. And also explain the process or the meeting online. What's the difference for the guests or members who have not attended before? Welcome the guests in the same way as we are doing this in our normal meetings. For the grammarian, you should type the word of the day and maybe some explanation into the chat so that everyone sees it. So we can continue with the word of the day. For the timer, as you've seen in the meeting, use colored cards in front of the camera, like we've done here, like Cordula is doing for me. Or use virtual background colors, which is a little bit more complicated, but who is experienced in this can do this too. I prefer just colored cards. And also give the tip to the speakers that they should pin the timer's video directly so that they see them, so that the timer is visible for the speaker, that they don't oversee it. And for the Zoom master, who should be at least the co-host, he or she should take care of the Zoom room. She should observe the chat. She should place the links into the chat so that everyone can open it. And she should, or he should mute any noisy participants. For members, I have this. For the role takers, there's a second part, evaluators. What they should do is meet the speakers before the meeting to be sure what they will talk about, to prepare to give a proper introduction. And they should also understand if the speaker has any constraints, if he's in a room situation that's not perfect, if he has a low internet connection or poor lighting, so that the evaluator can address this when introducing the speaker. Because if we know there's poor internet connection and we've heard this before, we are more aware of the situation and will evaluate this differently. For giving feedback to the speakers, you should prepare something. We used a Google form, and I also can send you the link to the Google form later on in the chat, so that everybody can type in the feedback that we are normally writing on the sheets. There's one special point: don't forget to press submit at the end of the meeting, otherwise the results are not in the form saved. And for the general evaluator, he or she should make some specific notes on the online meeting. What was really good, to also emphasize and motivate people to continue with it. There's always room for improvement. If you find certain things, you should mention this too, but it's also important to say, we are now in an online meeting and the situation is different. We know this, but we have seen great speakers. We have our evaluations forms like before, to also create a positive atmosphere. The table topics master. The question is, how shall he or she pick the volunteers? And he should announce this when he starts his introduction. Is it by show of hands? Or should people write into the chat, I volunteer for table topics? Or should you use the raise hand feature of Zoom? Just to be clear how the volunteers can make themselves visible, or how he or she picks the volunteers. And one thing that's really helpful is to write the names and the topics directly into the chat. So when you come to the voting of the best table topics speaker, that you see them in the chat. This makes it easier to make the voting. Concerning the voting itself, you should decide before the meeting which method you will use. You have the polls in Zoom that you can prepare. You can also use a Google form for the voting, but this needs to be prepared too. Another easy way is to use the chat. Just the private chat to the vote counter, to the Toastmaster of the evening, or any other person, the table topics master. Don't use the general chat because everybody would see it. This is also a way how to do the counting easily, and doesn't need any preparation, but you have to mention it. One thing after the meeting is one person should take care to send the evaluations to the speakers so that they really get it. This can be just a copy and paste by email, should not be too complicated. And you as a committee might discuss the things that need to be improved for the next time, because we can also get better in our online meetings. Sometimes they run smoothly, but sometimes there are some hiccups that you can avoid for the next time. And one thing is also for the guests, connect with them afterwards and invite them to the next meetings. Send them an email how they felt about the meeting and if they would like to come back. When we're doing this online, it might look a little bit different, but we should take the same care of the guests as we are doing it normally. Yeah, and these were my recommendations for you. Do you have any questions or best practices from your clubs that you would like to share? Or any questions?
Yes, thank you, Sabine. First, let's thank Sabine, everyone. Now,